and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding. I am not Buddy C. I am your host, Craig, for the evening. Buddy's came up with some lame excuse about having a power cut. It's the second lamest excuse I've heard today about missing a meeting. The first one I heard today was that somebody's clocks went back and he was an hour late for the meeting, which was me.
Yes.
Our clocks went back. So Marla, I'm sorry I missed the meeting today.
I do not hold a resentment.
That's good. That's good. Excellent. So am I the only person that's came in fancy dress?
Yes.
Am I the only person that got that text? Right, so today we are discussing Monkey Mountain. Did everybody get that in the messenger? Yeah. Would somebody like to read? Marla, do you want to read it?
Sure, I'll read it. Monkey Mountain. I'm going to butcher the names, but don't worry. The Prince of Wu took a boat to Monkey Mountain. As soon as the monkeys saw him, they all fled in panic and hid in the treetops. One monkey, however, remained completely unconcerned, swinging from branch to branch, an extraordinary display. The prince shot an arrow at the monkey, but the monkey dexterously caught the arrow in mid-flight. At this, the prince ordered his attendants to make a concerted attack. In an instant, the monkey was shot full of arrows and fell dead. Then the king turned to his companion, Yen Pai. You see what happened, he said? This animal advertised his cleverness. He trusted in his own skill. He thought no one could touch him. Remember that. Do not rely on distinction and talent when you deal with men. When they returned home, Yen Pai became the disciple of a sage to get rid of everything that made him outstanding. He renounced every pleasure. He learned to hide every distinction. Soon, no one in the kingdom knew what to make of him. Thus, they held him in awe.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I forgot to introduce everybody. We've got Marla, we've got Zach, Lou, Amy, and we've got Buddy. He might be jumping in and out. So, Monkey Mountain, what's that all about?
It seems like this is asking us to fade into fade into the woodwork and get rid of all our desires and wants and distinctions and traits and become whatever. It sounds really depressing, to be honest. It sounds kind of sad. I don't want to get rid of all my distinctions.
I think it's about pride. I think everything comes down to pride and ego in my world because my ego is so big. I think it's all about pride and ego. I think as soon as I try to act the big shot, and as it says, this animal advertised his cleverness. He trusted his own skill. He thought no one could touch him. I thought I was invincible until I met my match, which was alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I'm so prideful and if I'm so egotistical, interesting that I put on a peacock costume just now, which a peacock, right, is a symbol of pride. I'm talking about pride and I'm dressed as a peacock. Interesting, huh? And I think it says he learned to hide every distinction. That speaks humility to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's a reinterpretation because I'm looking at it's like I'm going to be a doormat.
No. It's like what happens when we let go of our will in our lives. What happens? It says, or we learn that what is going to become of us? Do we become the hole in the donut? What is going to become of me if I let go of all this exterior bullshit that I let the world see? I surrender, I become humble, and then I get to become my true authentic self, which is the way God intended me to be, or the Tao intended for me to be in the first place. That's what I got.
Well, it's kind of silly, but what it reminds me of is a couple of scenes in the Indiana Jones movie. I think it's the Raiders of the Lost Ark. One of the first ones where he comes in this area in the town center, and there's all these people around, and this person wearing flowing robes comes out with the sword, and he starts flipping it all over the place and doing all kinds of fancy steps and steps towards Harrison Ford's character, and he just pulls out a gun and shoots him. And he falls down dead. So it's the monkey's kind of like that. He's doing all this flashy stuff, but he gets taken care of just like that. And then, as Amy was talking about, I was thinking of another scene. Not even sure it's the same movie, but it's Indiana Jones again, where they're looking for the chalice of Christ. And there's all these fancy ones, and then there's this wooden one that is kind of off to the side, and it's the humble wooden one that's the true one. So I don't know why Indiana Jones flashed in my mind, but that those scenes came up, and I think it is both. Whenever I thought I was hot shit, it turns out somebody would remind me that I'm not. And whenever I kind of lay low, people tend to listen to you more. It's like the old E.F. Hutton thing. So maybe that ties in somehow.
Yeah, thanks. So just in case there was anybody else that was screaming the name of the film, the second film was The Last Crusade. I thought you were going to mention the part where they were in the tent and he was flipping the nuts to the monkey, and the monkey was catching them, and then he ate it. He ate one of them and it was poisoned. The monkey was just taking it for granted, the fact that it was going to be what it should be. So what I was reading into it was complacency. Am I kind of getting complacent in my routine and just thinking that everything's going to still be the same as it is maybe this time next week? Am I going to be in the same place with my addiction maybe this time next week? Or is it going to be, am I going to need to watch it evolve and just become more aware of what's going on?
Yep.
Buddy?
I like all of y'all's comments. I think it's the monkeys, Lou. You got the monkeys, and you start talking about. I started thinking about Harrison Ford and those movies as well. It's interesting that it says that he trusted his own skill. Is that not what we're always taught to do? Is enhance our skill and trust our skill. If we're not to trust our skill, we know the answer is rhetorical, but what are we to trust? If we're not to trust our own skill, I think it's what Amy was talking about with surrender. I think for me, this is a real example of surrender, in that the monkey didn't surrender. The monkey trusted his own skill. He trusted what he could do. And in doing so, it got him killed. And the same, I think that's what he did. Yun Pai, is that, that sounds like a good pronunciation, Marley. You did well with that. He became a disciple because he wanted to remove all the things that he trusted his own skill to do, was the way I see it. So in other words, he wanted to surrender his will and his life. He wanted to surrender and get out of the way so the emptiness of the universe could take care of him, So, and you can't acknowledge that emptiness until you're empty. That it's that mirror. We get back what we're given. Once we're given emptiness, then we can get it. Then we get everything we need. Hide every distinction. There might be better words than that, but I think of that as being hiding every way that I'm trying to be independent. Every way I'm trying to do my own will. That's just what I see in it. And Amy, you're right again about the ego. It is really, for me, the monkey was showing off. The monkey was saying, "See what I can do?" I said, "Yeah, I see." That's going to hurt you, fella, because I'll show you what I can do. He got back what he was giving, And that's what I see in it. And it's interesting. At the end, it says, "Soon, no one in the kingdom knew what to make of him. Thus, they held him in awe." Kind of reminds me of the sages. We read a lot of things in the Tao Te Ching about the sages not being flashy, not showing off, not taking credit, all those things that I think of as pride and ego related. And I think this is all about surrendering the ego. That was what I got out of it. Thanks, Craig, for jumping in and taking care of things. I don't know how much longer I'll be on. I've got my batteries draining on my phone. But I appreciate it, Craig, and I know you'll finish things up for us. So thank you.
That's fine. You're welcome. Can we play on one of the words on it? It says, he became a disciple of the sage to get rid of everything that made him outstanding. Could the word outstanding maybe be up there? Standing out? Obvious? His ego putting him up there on a pedestal?
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the 15th verse of the Tao, where it says, ancient masters were subtle, mysterious, profound, responsive. The depth of the knowledge is unfathomable because it is unfathomable. All we can do is describe their appearance. Watchful like men crossing a winter stream. Alert like men aware of danger. Courteous like visiting guests. Yielding like ice about to melt. Simple like uncarved blocks of wood. Hollow like caves. Opaque like muddy waters. So that's things that are not kind of putting themselves out there to say, look at me, look at me.
I think that kind of goes along with what we talked about, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, with the hiding your weapons or concealing your weapons, right? Don't show everybody, don't show your cards. I mean, that's another way to look at it, I think. But for me, it's hard. It's really hard not to brag on myself, not to say, hey, look at me, look what I do, look what I've done. Don't I get an attagirl? Who doesn't want an attagirl or an attaboy, But then even when I'm doing good things, if that's what I'm doing them for, my motives are wrong. They're not pure. So I really do get rid of everything that made him outstanding, or maybe that's just my perception. The things that I perceive that make me outstanding, and really they just, to other people, make me seem arrogant and full of myself and everybody else is looking at me like that when I'm just thinking, oh, but I'm just a really good person and I do all these great things. When other people are like, no, you're just full of shit, Amy. You're just full of shit.
I've got a note on the Thomas Merton version. I've got the digital version, and the note towards this chapter says that it illustrates Chuang's middle way between not having evident qualities and yet not being without qualities. The point is to have them as not having them, to excel with an excellence that is not one's own, but that belongs to Tao. Thus, one is not admired or even strictly recognized, and yet one is an obscure force in society nonetheless. Buddy?
Amy, I was thinking about what you said, and it's interesting how the things we think are so great, many times others do not think are that great, That's good. And I was thinking about, the only way that I learn not to take credit is for things to happen in circumstances that cause me to have to choose not to take credit. As long as I have, and good things happen, and then I have that challenge. I mean, I've had it happen quite honestly, on the 9 p.m. meeting. I've had that happen when people have said, how did this meeting start? I want to say, I started this meeting. It was me. Buddy C, I did this, And I've not done that. And it's worked out good. Now other people are, at first nobody would say anything. They said, should we say Buddy did it or not? And then I jumped in and said, some folks from Georgia started it, or whatever we said. It was an internet meeting. I didn't take credit for it, bottom line. And now people just jump in and say that, which is good, because I still want to do it. Every time I want to say, no, by God, I did it, And, if I look at all these things, and I do, as a gift, everything I have is a gift that I've been given to give away. And if I just keep that presence of mind and not my ego, not jump up and try to take credit for something that my ego cannot do, then I can maintain, and stay at this place of peace that this way of life brings. And for me, that is the way a lot of times, talking about this guy, how did he say it? That he got rid of everything that made him outstanding. For me, that is getting rid of the things that's me not bringing attention to myself, which does that. So this is really a great story. We got a message on YouTube, actually. All these go on YouTube as well, all of our podcasts. And we had a listener. I don't have his name in front of me. Maybe y'all do. If you do, mention it. And he wanted to hear the story, so we bumped the story up for us and for him in the readings. It would have been way down the line. So, but it was a good suggestion. Look that up for me, Craig, when you have a minute.
Devin P.
What was you said it was again? Devin somebody?
Devin P. Yep. Devin P. asked us.
Oh, that's great. Yes. Thank you, Devin. This is a great story. Thank you, sir. That's all I have. Thanks.
I think it's interesting, too, that all of the monkeys except one fled in panic. And the one that didn't run.
With his big ego.
Yes. Is the one that got killed.
Yes. With his big ego.
With his big ego.
Yeah. He wanted to look outstanding and be outstanding. So he was punished for it. Lost his life. That made me sad too.
But he was also, I think it was being a smartass, because he was also swinging from branch to branch. As like, haha, look at me.
The prince traveled to Monkey Island. It's the monkeys' island. Oh. They belong. The monkeys belong there. The prince does not.
Are we really saying it was the monkey's own fault? Because I don't think that's what the story was. Was the monkey swinging around dressed as a skeleton with a top hat on, saying, "Look at me"? Or dressed as a peacock?
No, he's dressed as a peacock.
Really cocky?
Definitely dressed as a peacock.
I don't know about you guys, but I got into plenty of trouble when my ego was like pushing me out there and saying, "Look at me, look what I can do." Zach?
Yeah, I was thinking about. I think it does. I mean, it seems, like pride, humility, are some pretty obvious lessons that really stick out, for sure. I would just kind of tag on to that, though, when it talks about what the monkey did, right? The monkey caught the arrow out of the air. And to me, that's not nothing. You know what I mean? That's a real skill. That is a legitimate skill that the monkey has. But when you're talking about humility, it's really all about context. You know what I mean? And so, if the monkey has only ever dealt with, one person shooting one arrow at a time, it's a very valuable skill. Catch the arrow, throw it down, and you're done with it, But in this case, the monkey, he didn't have the whole picture. he thought if he caught the one arrow, he relied on his own skill. He thought if he caught the arrow and dropped it, it would be over with. But that wasn't the case. The catching arrow, he couldn't see the full picture. And that not being able to admit that you don't see the full picture, that's humility. That's the thing that he was missing. And it's what I mean, at least in the story, I mean, that's what got him killed, you know. Everybody's like, hey, look, a monkey that can catch an arrow, shoot him. And that's the pride, that's the humility, is being able to say, hey, look, I don't know what all's going on here. I'm gonna, you know, lay low, or I'm gonna, you know, maybe there's a scenario where catching the arrow is the best thing, but he didn't have all the information, and he couldn't admit that he didn't have all the information, and it got him killed.
Maybe he hadn't got to the 12 traditions with his sponsor. Maybe he hadn't got to the 12th one. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all traditions.
Yeah.
Ever remind us to place our principles before personalities. So remind us to hide before we go catching arrows.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't read chapter 13 of the Tao either. It's winning can be just as bad as losing. Confidence can mess you up just as much as fear. What is winning can be just as bad as losing means. If you're down, you might be able to get up, but if you're up, you can get knocked down real fast. Don't worry about the score. Just do what you have to do.
Buddy?
That fucking monkey. How about this? The era he caught was the prince's era. He humiliated the prince. So the prince responded to the monkey humiliating him and had him shot full of arrows. So maybe part of this is the prince saw his reaction to humiliation. So not only the distinction in pride, but the distinction in our attack when we're humiliated. Maybe that worked on the prince too. Because the prince obviously likes, whatever reason, I don't know why they were on Monkey Mountain. Maybe were they going to shoot monkeys or see the monkeys, or I don't know what they were there for. Does it say? He just says he took a boat to Monkey Mountain. So I assume it's an island, but it's a boat that he took to the mountain. So so they shot, I guess they were shooting monkeys, but regardless, the monkey humiliated the prince. Is what I see too. I hadn't saw that before till Zach started talking about all this, and I said, hey, wait a minute. It's the prince's era that he caught. So don't you know that humiliated the prince? So there's something to do with his reaction to humiliation that drove, no pun intended, drove it a little deeper in him for this whole scenario, I think. What do y'all think?
We have a safari park not far from here, and part of it is called Monkey Island. And you have to go on the boats to actually get there, and the boats are all enclosed. And the reason the boats are enclosed is because as the closer you get to the island, the monkeys start throwing everything that they can find at the boats. So anything that's lying around, they just grab it. Even it doesn't matter, even if it's feces, they just pick it up and they chuck it in the boat because they don't want you to come there. So my natural reaction is not to pick something back up and throw it at the monkeys, but it's usually a case of, who are you throwing that thing at? I think I'm kind of losing sympathy with the monkey.
Oh, monkeys are mean. I had a friend that had a monkey, and it would put his hand back behind it and laugh at you and point at you. What is he doing? He says, he's shitting in his hand so he can throw it at you. That's exactly what this monkey did. He was mean. He'd sit there and laugh and point his finger at you and just laugh. I said, what's he doing? He'd have his hand behind his butt, right? He says, oh, he's waiting. He says, they're mean. They can be mean. So, yeah, I'm with Amy. I think it's all humiliation and pride. That whole inverse that happens in our reaction to both, and surrendering it.
There's pride coming before the fall.
So how about character defects? How do they end up being character defects? They're misguided instincts, right? Or exaggerated survival skills. Well, the monkey used his survival skill of catching the arrow, and it backfired on him because he got killed. The same thing with us. If we use our survival skills, kept us alive for quite some time, right? The grace too, but then we get to the point where they're not working for us anymore, right? They're actually killing us. At the same time, once we work through some steps, and once we have some experience of recovery, then those liabilities can be turned into assets. So I think Zach made a very good point in that it was a very good skill to have. How cool is that I'm able to catch an arrow in midair? That's a pretty neat skill. And maybe one day, if the monkey had not been killed, maybe one day he might have needed that particular skill, and it would have been an asset. But in this case, it was a liability or a character defect.
Yeah, all the other monkeys ran away, which is probably the natural reaction, right? If you have some natural fear of human beings, and when a bunch of them come, natural thing might be to run away. The monkey that didn't run away went against the natural order, perhaps in some way, and counted on his cleverness or his skills to carry the day for him. And there were some natural consequences of that too. You humiliate the emperor, you're going to get your butt shot full of arrows.
So is it a case of when we should know when to use our assets? Not always have them on display.
That could be a lesson learned in this particular verse. Don't stand out, or you'll get killed.
Yeah, it says the disciple. Well, hold on a minute now. I thought it was the prince that became a disciple, but it wasn't. It was the guy with the prince.
It was his companion. Yeah.
It was his companion. Okay, I misread that. I thought it was the prince that became the disciple, but it was not. Okay. It was the guy observing the whole scenario on both sides. Okay.
So was the guy that was the companion, was he reacting out of fear?
What do you mean?
You mean reacting by becoming a monk?
Yeah.
Sure. It could be.
And taking away all his character traits. Where does it say? He got rid of everything that made him outstanding. He renounced every pleasure. He learned to hide every distinction. I kind of get a sense that he was reacting out of fear. He wasn't wanting to.
He was already wise, though. He was a wise man already, because he told the prince. First of all, he's with the prince, and secondly, he told the prince the lesson. You know, he brought to the prince's attention. So he's teaching the prince. So he's teaching the king. It says calls him king here and prince up above. But he's the companion of the king. So he's already in a level of attainment, obviously is a wise man that the king confided in. And he used the lesson of the animal, and it was such a lesson. And the lesson was really for him and not for the king. I had not realized that until right now. So that brings a whole nother element of, isn't it a gift when we can learn from someone else's pride and ego and not have to be our own?
Yes.
I think that's another part of this that I did not see, was that he learned from someone else's mistake, not from his own. He didn't have to make the mistake to learn from it.
That's a good point.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that. And basically what he was doing was surrendering his pride and ego, from what I can see, was the whole goal when he went to work with the sage after that. So he's already a spiritual guy, and he just decided to take it to the next level.
Yeah, what got through to him when the king said, remember that, do not rely on distinction and talent when you deal with men. How much distinction and talent do we think his companion had? He seems to have taken that to heart and gone to a sage, left the king's quarters or whatever, and went to a sage to go from being the counselor to the king to being a student of the sage. Let's say that might infer.
That's true humility, isn't it, Lou? That is humility there.
Yeah, give up a powerful position and influence in order to learn.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
Well, but the last part, soon no one in the kingdom knew what to make of him, thus they held him in awe. Do we hold things in awe that we don't understand? He renounced everything. Yeah, he renounced everything to the stage where nobody knew who he was, what he stood for.
Yeah, once nobody knows how to make of you, once nobody knows what to make of you, that's how you know that you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, there's this, and I can't remember the quote, but it has to do that we have to make room for our for the acknowledging of our gifts, that we don't do that acknowledgement ourselves. We make room for someone else to, if they choose to. So that's the awe, I think, was that he left room for others to acknowledge his gifts, not for him to do it. Another true humility, which brought about true praise, not pride and ego instigated praise, because if they holding him in awe would be quite an achievement you could not gain in your own abilities and powers. I think is the point, is that he got true praise by getting rid of all the surrendering his life and getting rid of all those skills that he would try to stand out. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So did it kind of backfire on him then? Because
it's the paradox, Craig. It's paradoxical.
That's the word I was looking for, paradox, rather than did it come back and bite him in the backside? That's not what I meant. Because he's renounced all this. Yeah, he renounced all this stuff that was going to make him stand out, and then by doing that, people held him in that high esteem.
By doing that, he stood out.
Yeah.
Do you really want to stand out? Then renounce everything that makes you stand out.
That's right.
That's anonymity, being spiritual.
Yeah. And it's all those paradoxes that we learn, Amy. Surrendering to live, or what? I get them all mixed up. I bet
surrender
you
to win, die to live, give it away to keep, suffer to get well.
Yeah, all of that. I'd rather shoot the monkey full of arrows.
That seems way more fun. It seems way more fun some days, especially if he's going to shit and throw it at me.
Yeah, especially if he tries to humiliate me, or does in front of all of my, if I were the king and in front of all of my subjects, he humiliates me. Yeah, I'm going to react. Yeah.
But it's kind of like the Beatitudes too, right? It's the gospel. It's like the Beatitudes. The meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah, the weaker I get, the stronger I become, right, Lou? Paul's thorn. That's good stuff.
I think Bugs Bunny is a Taoist too, as I think about it. Talk about Putin being a Taoist, but I think Bugs Bunny's a Taoist too. Nothing ever gets to Bugs.
As opposed to Wile E. Coyote.
Yes.
How about this? Do not rely on distinction and talent when you deal with men. So how about if I'm relying on what makes me outstanding, as it also says in there, then I might invoke other people's character defects and other people, kind of like the humiliation and wishing to retaliate, right? I step on the toes of my fellows and they retaliate. So when I'm acting all arrogant and egotistical and prideful and I'm saying, look at me, then a result of that could be other people, like the prince, shooting me with arrows because it instigates their character defects. Exactly what Buddy was talking about the humiliation part.
We get back what we give, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's
the
right.
mirror. Everything is the mirror.
And poke the bear.
The prince was a one-upper. The monkey showed him a skill, and the prince had to one-up him.
Yeah, that's good. I think we chewed that one up and came at it from all. Is there anything else we can draw out of that one? We've drawn a lot out of that. That's good.
We got some movie references, some cartoon references, some gospel references. We did pretty good.
Oh yeah, we did great, didn't we? It was wonderful.
Yeah, we really stood out.
Yeah, we did.
We were outstanding.
Yes. We are so smart.
Devin, if you're listening, if we've answered all your questions, or if we've maybe given you more questions than you had to start with, let us know.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from him. I'm sure we will. We appreciate anybody else that's got one that they want to hear. Let us know, and we'll skip ahead to it too. Craig, you don't have to go the whole hour, sir. I think we covered this one pretty good. If everyone's good with that.
We did come at it at every angle.
We did, and it really is. I know we're kidding about being so smart, but this really is a gift when we can get together and talk about, and all these things come to light that none of us would have figured out on our own. My only note on this was surrender is all I'd wrote down, because I really didn't have the thing figured out. I had some ideas.
That's your theme every week.
It is, Mark, because it's what my life is about. My life is about surrender. Yeah, because I the weaker I get, the better my life is. The less I try to figure this thing out, and I don't think it's ever going to change. I think that is the theme. I think that is the theme, especially for me. For whatever reason, that's I guess because I worked so hard to do things on my own for so long, and think I have so much natural ability that I've got to surrender that ability for. It took 6 years before I could do that enough to not drink myself to death. Now it's learning to surrender in all these other areas of life before it's life threatening, so I can have that same peace and joy. So it's all a gift, and this is y'all are a gift. Thank you. Even Craig's a gift too.
I'm just a gift that keeps on giving.
That's it.
I'm like that present that you get at Christmas and you think, oh man, who gave me him?
Well, thank you, Craig. I appreciate you filling in today.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. That was nice.
My phone is going down, so I'm going to go, guys. Y'all have a great day.
Right. Okay. Take care. See you soon. Right, everybody.
Thanks.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.